This lesson was a project-based learning lesson about creating your own fast food restaurant that I adapted for a third grade special education student to spiral back some of the math and reading and writing skills that his teacher had already covered in the general education classroom, as well as work on some of his math-based and writing SOL goals. We worked on this project together over the course of about 2 weeks during our pull-out time together, and I'll include several samples of the students' work and an audio clip of us working on part of the project together. The audio clip you're about to hear is when I was working with the student during a pull-out time on the floor plan part of the PBL. So what he was doing was working on deciding how many tables and chairs of various sizes that he wanted throughout his restaurant, how big the kitchen would be. At one point he decided he'd like to add a party room, and so we were learning how to measure out the floor plan so that everything fit with enough space for chairs and all of those types of things. So he's learning to measure by scale and drawing out the scaled model to suit what he wanted his restaurant to look like. Remember how we were doing our restaurant floor plan design? Mm-hmm. So I kind of made a visual because we didn't talk too much about it last time because we just started. So remember that each of our little squares was a foot. You remember that? And then I showed you, I kind of drew it before you got here, that our tables that seat 6 are going to look like that when you draw it out. And then the circle tables are going to be a little weirder because you just have to make sure the circle is 3 cubes wide. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Perfect. This particular work sample is a math project where the student decided what items would go on his menu. Then we calculated what the wholesale price would be, what he would put on the menu as the price, and how much profit he would make. So we went through each of those, created the equation, and solved it for every item that the student wanted on his menu. This particular student work sample is a circle map that he created to brainstorm ideas about who he would need to hire in order for his restaurant to run smoothly. There was also a portion of the project where the student needed to write out the ways that he would go about hiring people to work in his restaurant. So I helped him scribe out a flow map that you'll see here to describe how he would hire employees that we had brainstormed in the circle map. And then I allowed him to voice dictate what we put in the flow map on to Google Docs. This student works better when he's able to voice dictate his writing. It helps it to be clearer. It helps him with spelling. It helps him because he is a little bit weaker in writing. So we use headset microphone to voice dictate onto Google Docs the things that we write out in our flow map. We still do all of our planning and all of the steps of the writing process. He just voice dictates those things. He's also still responsible to edit and make sure that his sentences begin with capitals, end with punctuation, and have proper spacing. This piece here was us brainstorming some good interview questions that he could ask for potential employees, and I scribed those out for him, and then he actually conducted a play interview with me to see if he would want to hire me as his manager. So it gave him some writing practice as well as just some experience in having a conversation and interacting with other people. This was another math project in the PBL where the student decided how much money the manager would make and then calculated how much he would have to pay a manager if they worked a certain amount of hours. For example, it had 40, 80, and so on. And so he had to multiply how much he wanted to pay the manager based on what kind of hours the manager was working and what that would equal out to every time.